what is happening now. They are hopeless and hungry.
Now it's time for us to stand up for God or we fall to nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
Good afternoon and welcome to Talk Today. It is a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Patrick Schmid and I'm standing in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Good afternoon, Grand Cayman, Cayman Brack and Little Cayman. I hope you're all tuning in to listen to Talk Today. We have an especially interesting program for you with the presence of both Dr. Mark Lockhart, clinical psychiatrist, and Dr. Alexandra Bodden, who is a clinical psychologist. And so we're going to be discussing in particular stresses, strains, worries, and how to best cope with the issues that we're encountering in relation to COVID-19 pandemic. So stay tuned to 89.9. We'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Again, my name is Patrick Schmid and I'm sitting in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, who may be able to join us later, but I'm not entirely sure. Nevertheless, we are graced with the presence of Dr. Mark Lockhart here in the studio. Good afternoon, Dr. Lockhart.
And good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Very good.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you here, sir.
Pleasure to be here.
And I believe that very shortly we will have on the line as well Dr. Alexandra Bodden, both of whom will have some very interesting perspectives. And you are, as soon as she joins us, of course, she will be put through by our technician, our wonderful Susan Watson, and. Also, just by way of reminder, if you have questions for the good doctors, the numbers, of course, are 949-8037 or toll-free courtesy of Flow, 1-800-534-8255. Or indeed, you can send us a WhatsApp or an email. The WhatsApp would go to 925-3261 or email us on talktoday@candw.ky. So without further ado, I'd like to... once again, welcome Dr. Lockhart, who is already with us here in the studio, as I mentioned. Yes. And perhaps, Dr. Lockhart, maybe you could give us a little bit of your perspective on how things are going thus far in the curfew, based on your experience.
So I would like to compliment our population for their overall response and compliance, for the most part, with the limitations that we all have. Granted, I know that there was a little bit of an increased run, in a sense, on the supermarkets on Saturday. But from a behavioral health standpoint, that was to be expected.
Right.
If you're going to isolate or restrict movement of human beings for more than 24 or 48 hours, the human response is that people are going to come out in droves. It happens. It's not just here. So I know sometimes we beat up on our own people sometimes.
Yes.
If you go up to Florida, you go up to parts of the United States, you see the same thing. They're out of toilet paper, they're out of this. People are making a run on the stores.
Sure.
Because that gives us a sense of control. That's something we can do. We can drive to the store, wait in line, get certain things, pack it away, look at it at home, and that makes us feel like, okay, we're protected somehow from what's going on.
Right. And they feel participative, I guess, as
exactly.
well. Yes.
Exactly. So I'm not endorsing that, of course, but I'm saying that's human nature.
Yes.
And considering what could have been, I think overall we did quite well. And I think the things that have been put in place should help to reduce that.
Absolutely, sir. Do we have Dr. Bodden on the line now? Hello, Dr. Bodden? I'm not sure if we have Dr. Borden on the line as of yet, but I'm sure she'll join us momentarily. Hello, Dr. Borden? Okay, so we'll just wait until we can have her join us. Thank you very much again, Dr. Lockhart, for that. I was just thinking, I mean, it speaks to the fact that there has been, with a few exceptions, by and large, a lot of cooperation from the general populace who are taking this thing very seriously.
Yes.
The fact that there have been so few incursions of the limits, and in fact, the government has seen fit to actually move to the to bipartite soft curfew and hard curfew, so to speak, which seems quite reasonable because it allows people to get things done. It allows them to perhaps alleviate some of that stress that they may be feeling from being at home all the time. And so I just wondered if you have any particular perspective on whether that is a better situation that we're now in. And
yes, so I agree wholeheartedly with the approach currently in terms of the hard curfew versus soft curfew, and just from being based on a medical background, that is the intervention that we have at our disposal. We don't have a medication right now that cures the COVID virus. We don't have a vaccine as of yet. Efforts are moving along fairly rapidly, even since the last time a week ago that I was here, in terms of getting test kits.
Yes.
And it's moving fairly quick. Probably within the next few weeks, they're going to be rapid type test kits being developed. Whether we will have them here is another thing, but at least it's moving towards that.
Yes.
So the real intervention that we all have right now is really to foster separation or a certain amount of isolation. That brings up another quick point. From a psychiatric, psychological standpoint, what we're realizing, because remember, we're all learning, this is new, we're realizing, and it's just coming to the notice of several of my colleagues in the States and so on, that this term social isolation we need to be careful of also.
Absolutely.
We prefer physical distancing instead of social isolation. Right. Social isolation as a concept is really not conducive of good mental health.
No.
We're social creatures as human beings. So just using the term social isolation highlights the physical distancing that we need to use.
Yes.
But it can bring in other types of perceptions that we need to withdraw from human interaction completely. Right. And that is false. So really, we are trying to push a little bit of a change in terms of this term social isolation to more physical distancing.
Yes, yes.
But you don't want to isolate. You want to use the physical distance, but you want to have interaction, dialogue, discussion, and other types of interaction.
Indeed, this should be the time when we're taking advantage of the opportunity of having a little extra time on our hands. Some of us, anyway, those who are not on the front line, so to speak, the health workers and so on, to interact with our family, with our friends, and perhaps even broaden our social links, but via the communications means that we have available.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's what we want to highlight, that we don't really want to isolate socially. We just want to use different and unique mediums of socializing at this point.
Yes.
The distancing and isolation that we want is physical. We want to reduce that distance between us and that contact with those that are not part of our family. But from a social standpoint, it is extremely important, and even more so at this point, to make sure that we do everything at our disposal to keep those types of contacts going.
Pardon me again, Dr. Lockhart. I just need to check once more if we have Dr. Borden with us at this stage. Hello? Dr.
Hi,
Borden?
yes, sir.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Yes, sir. Hi. Okay, glad you guys can hear me.
Hi, Dr. Borden.
Yes, perfectly well. And do we have you for a little bit, or are you going to be?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So, I'm not sure if you caught the tail end of what we were just discussing. We're going to have to go to a short commercial break, very shortly. But just to say that Dr. Lockhart was just giving his own perspective, in particular on the issue of social isolation versus social distancing as a term. Of physical distancing, and the importance of that, obviously, for the mental health aspect of the community at large, and during the pandemic. And so I just wondered if you would like to contribute any thoughts on that particular issue. Hello? Dr. Bawden? Yeah. Oh, we have a caller online as well? Okay. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator. Dr. Lockhart, good evening to you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon again, sir.
Just, I just want to piggyback on what you just said a while ago about the actual social isolation. And I know it has to be a fine line, but it might be a good idea to try and develop something that might work for the benefit of all and still keep the social distancing and stuff in place. But I think if this thing goes on till June or so, and I think people are getting a bit sort of, for the use of a better word, disorientated by being what they call locked up at home. I think going on the beach for a little walk would be nice, but then you don't want to sort of promote that wholesale, because then you have another problem out there with people not adhering to some of the strict guidelines. So, what are your thoughts on how to not get disorientated or agitated by just being, for the use of a better word, locked, feeling locked up inside your house?
Yes,
Okay,
excellent question. So several parts to that. The first part is we are all working our way through this as we speak. I mean, every day, every few days, we're approaching this slightly differently or gaining new information in a sense. Mm-hmm. What we do know as a fact is that isolating from other human beings is not healthy from a mental health standpoint. That's the bottom line. Point number two, though, we also know from the standpoint of treating a pandemic and a virus, physical social contact is exactly what we do not want to do. So therein lies the conflict that we're dealing with. So in the middle, what we realize as mental health professionals is that we have to change our thinking and our thought process. We have to start to work on accepting our new reality. This is not to increase our anxiety, but it is to help us to get better control on what we're going to be dealing with for the next several months, or even longer. Now, I'm going to be clear. I'm not saying that we're going to be necessarily dealing with the same challenges from the standpoint of the virus that we are dealing with today in several months. But the facts are that several months from now, even with a vaccine, which is going to be a way, or even with testing and treatment, there are going to be changes. There are going to be changes in terms of travel, in terms of contact. Even 6 months from now, large gatherings, there's going to be increased anxiety in terms of how we deal with that.
Yes.
So what we need to start to do today, everyone, is to write things down, try to become as organized as we can about how we plan our day. I spoke to somebody earlier this morning that's been working from home for the last 2 weeks in a one-bedroom apartment. And this person said, overall I'm doing fairly well, considering I thought I was going to be doing much worse. But I have had a few meltdowns from time to time where I do feel a bit stir-crazy. I do feel a bit confined.
Yes.
I do get a bit bored. My productivity, although I'm working from home, on the one hand, it's positive. I don't have to get dressed up. I don't have to worry about the traffic. but my productivity is down.
Yes.
It's hard to keep motivated and keep up to get everything done. I get distracted a little bit more easily.
Right.
So these are all things that we have to accept and understand.
Yes.
That they are, while they're positives from working from home, there are going to be certain negatives. So we have to find ways of organizing ourselves, having outlets. And as I said, like the last time, whether they're developing new types of outlets or things that we can look at online and learn. Connecting, if you're a religious person, with religious services online, spiritual, meditation, exercise is extremely important. And also finding time to do things that we have put off.
Yes. An easy example might be the fact that many people have not made the step or the leap, shall we say, to engage all aspects of technology in as much as some of the younger folk tend to do. Exactly. And so this would be a good opportunity to become more familiarized with some of those with some of the software that is available to allow that social interaction, perhaps. But I believe you have Dr. Borden back on the line with us. Hi again, Dr. Borden.
I hope so.
Yes.
I'm sorry about the problems.
Welcome back.
I'm going to be an example of adjusting to the world we're living in.
Exactly.
What I was thinking about. I feel like now we really have to look at, it's not, we're past the initial shock stage. We kind of now have this work, and that includes learning new technology, which is frustrating and difficult.
Dr. Borden?
You think you're supposed to.
Hello, Dr. Borden, I apologize. I believe that there may be some sort of difficulty with the headset or something, or if you're moving around, because you're coming in and out, basically. I'm sorry about that. But you're proving your point, definitely.
This will be something else I'll learn not to do.
So you might wish to repeat the last part, if you don't mind, of what you were saying. Regarding the use of technology. There's going
to be bumps in the road as we get into this. But I think, that's what I was thinking about this morning, is kind of shifting perspective, like Dr. Lockhart was saying, from, okay, well, I got to get through this today, to, how are we going to make this more manageable in case it is, a few more weeks. So my first couple of days at home, setting up my online system, because I'm seeing clients online, trying to figure out how it works. And I actually, after my first couple of days, made a list of things I needed from the office. So once curfew was lifted, I actually went back to get the things I needed so that I can continue to do this, well, because I like to do my job well. So making sure I have the things I need, rearranging the room to make sure that I'm comfortable and able to. So, doing what you need to do to allow yourself to get done what you need to get done.
Yes, we were actually talking as well about how for many people the complete sort of hard curfew for the 2 days that we had it was quite disorienting. There were people who were even saying when Saturday came around that they didn't feel as if it were a Saturday, and it was in that short period of time people had been that much affected just in that minor way. But it seems like the current hard and soft curfew, so to speak, that we have in place is much more manageable for the general populace as well. Would you say, Dr. Borden? Okay, would you like to take that one, Dr. Lockhart?
Yeah, so I do feel it is more manageable, and I think the government is on the right track with that. After 48 hours, we have to have breaks as human beings. It becomes more problematic if you go to 72 hours and beyond, having a hard curfew.
Yes.
And again, I'm just humbly submitting that as a mental health professional.
Right.
What it does is it pents up anxiety. And then what happens is once you have a release, it's like everybody goes running and scrambling 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
That being said, just knowing human nature, we probably do need to put some controls in on the soft curfew, just like what I heard yesterday in terms of going to the supermarket and using alphabetical demarcations in terms of last name to get people in.
Right.
I don't want to jump the gun too far ahead, but I feel that as we approach opening up for other businesses, maybe that's the approach to continue to use for a while.
Right.
In terms of limiting numbers in other stores when we do get to that point.
Yes. It certainly has seemed to be functioning by and large well, and I've noticed that the supermarkets in particular, the banks, in fact, all of the businesses that are somewhat functioning and of necessity, I might say, are actually practicing that necessary physical distancing in accordance with the rules, and by and large, people are definitely cooperating. I think we need to go to a short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Lockhart and possibly Dr. Bodden.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore,
Persons having difficulty coping and managing stress during these difficult times can call a new confidential mental health helpline, which is operated by the Cayman Islands government in collaboration with private partners. The number is 1-800-534-6463. That's 1-800-534-6463. Hours are Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Additional hours will be added as needed.
Water Authority Cayman's Grand Cayman office is closed until further notice and will only be providing emergency and essential services at this time. Customers in Grand Cayman who experience service interruption should call the authority's emergency hotline 946-4357. Customers in Cayman Brac who require trucked potable water can continue to make requests by calling 948-1403 between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. Interaction with the authority's customer service team will be limited, but customers can still make queries via email at info@waterauthority.ky. However, there may be a delayed response time. If you need to pay a bill, you can do it online by visiting our website, waterauthority.ky, and clicking on the Pay My Bill button. You can also make a payment via your bank. For updates and important messages from the Water Authority, visit our website, waterauthority.ky, and our social media pages.
Vamped Motors encourages everyone to stay home in compliance with our government's directives, which are absolutely critical to protect our islands from the coronavirus. In light of this, Vamped Motors will be closed from Wednesday the 25th of March for 10 days, or until our Cayman Islands government gives us the all-clear to return to work. Please, everyone, be safe and let's get through this together by staying apart.
Persons in the Cayman Islands are reminded that shelter-in-place procedures are in effect. If you are not an essential services worker, you must remain at home unless you are going to the supermarket or pharmacy between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. until further notice. Please note that gatherings, parties, and events such as conferences and concerts involving more than 2 persons are not allowed. Until further notice, the shelter-in-place order is in effect and applies to all 3 Cayman Islands. This might be extended if deemed necessary. Although movement will be allowed for essential purposes, shelter at home still requires everyone to remain at home or in their yard space. Breaches upon conviction will attract a $1,000 fine and imprisonment of 6 months. A hard curfew is in effect from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m., meaning that no one except essential services workers is allowed to leave home at any time during the hard curfew period. Stay at home, Cayman.
For the health of it, Radio Cayman's premier health show is brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy, the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association, Holy Cross Hospital,
Cayman Fertility Center,
and EatingClean.com.
This is For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio K-Man's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today, where I'm speaking with Dr. Mark Lockhart, and we'll be joined momentarily by Dr. Alexandra Bawden when she can. She's accessing the site or accessing our discussion remotely. So we're still learning with the technology. Nevertheless, we have Dr. Lockhart with us, and so without further ado, I'd like to go right back to Dr. Lockhart. We had a few questions as well coming from WhatsApp, so perhaps he'll address those now.
Yes. So if I can remember, one question had to do with how to deal with being in a public space or so on and feeling that you're being ignored or discounted in some way. And that could be, again, because of many reasons. There is also a certain amount of concern and fear and stigma to some extent regarding who may have a cough or not. So I'll use that as an example. I was in a public place sometime last week, and there were groups of people talking with a fair distance. Somebody walked by and let out a pretty loud cough, and all conversation ceased. No one said anything, but you can see just the thought process where people are a little concerned.
Yes.
Another thing we want to be careful about, and that I'm picking up a little bit on in the community, not as much as I've been reading in other places, is that there's a little bit of stigma towards those in the on the front line or healthcare workers.
Yes.
Especially those that are working in the hospital settings. Some of their neighbors, sometimes family and friends, are a little bit concerned or afraid to come near them, fear that they could possibly transmit this virus, and we need to be very careful about that. We have to understand that there are many people who are right now working in the hospital. There are many police officers out on the road. There are many other of the frontline employees that are doing many different jobs that are putting themselves at a certain amount of risk, but they are doing it with a serious amount of caution and care.
Of course.
And that's to protect all of us. So we really want to be careful, take our own hygienic methods in hand, washing our hands, being careful, keeping a distance, but we don't need to scorn people because of where they work or what they do.
Right. And of course, Doctor, if correct me if I'm wrong, but once they adhere to the basic rules, let's still apply all, whether it's hard curfew or soft curfew. The 6 foot physical distancing, or 3 meters, as the case may be. The fact remains that, 2 meters, pardon me. That we're once we're practicing that, even if a person has been exposed, then we should be okay if we're speaking with them from that distance.
Correct. And again, while we're still learning quite a bit as time goes on, this virus has been around now for many months.
Yes.
So it's not like we're dealing with weeks.
Right.
So we do have a body of information. So we hear many things about how long the virus actually remains airborne, how long it can last on a particular surface. And those things are all valid. But we do know at the same time that once we are washing our hands and taking that primary precaution about being careful of touching our face and changing our clothes if we're out and so on, that we should do quite well. That most of the information is showing that you really need a pretty significant amount of close contact, and for a good period of time, from what we know at this point, in order for somebody really to catch this virus.
Yes. Dr. Lockhart, I believe we have Dr. Bawden back with us for a short while at least. Hello, welcome back again. Dr. Bawden, we were just talking about, the importance of maintaining, of course, that physical distance and not treating people differently once we're adhering to that. Obviously, we don't want the additional stresses and side effects of people feeling even more isolated because people that they're familiar with are not speaking with them or interacting with them. So just wondered if you had that or any thoughts on that particular topic, or whether you wanted to contribute anything else whilst you're still with us.
Yeah, and sorry for all the technical issues. I'm not sure what's going on with my internet. But yeah, I think it gives us a chance to explore new ways of connecting with people.
Yes.
And like I've learned that WhatsApp, you can actually do video group calls. So my team's been using that each morning to check in, which just makes it a bit more personal.
Right.
And there's group ways of being able to do online games together. So my friends and I we've set up a card game for this evening. So it's just going to be learning new ways of connecting with other people, because I agree right now, while we are physically separating, it's important more than ever to be connected with the people that we care about. I think a lot of my friends have family overseas, and so I've really encouraged them to do the video calls, because it can really help just to see the person, especially when we don't know what's going on over there. It's really uncertain times right now, which is hard for everyone.
Right, and of course, some persons were expressing concern about getting lost a little bit in time, in terms of not following the regular routine. But I believe we had some discussion the last time you were in about this very same issue, insofar as people maintaining, and Dr. Lockhart indeed has made reference to it as well. Writing out a plan, a schedule, but. If you were normally at your desk at 8:30 in the morning, dressed a certain way, then, and especially if you're working from home, it is probably a very good idea to practice the same thing, so that once things get back to normal, we could be able to go more smoothly back into that or make that transition more smoothly. Do you agree?
Oh, for sure. Our bodies like routine. See, humans don't like to not know what's happening and to not be in control. That's why this situation's been so unnerving for everyone.
Yes.
Because there's a lot going on, a lot that we don't understand, a lot that we can't do anything about. This idea of staying home is actually the best thing you can do is weird, because normally we want to be able to do something active.
Yes.
So it's where we really encourage people to focus on what you can control and what is within your realm of what you're able to do. And sticking to a routine is a great way to, keep track of time. I know I've had that issue as well. But being able to keep your body in a routine too, so that way you're going to be feeling better. It gives some sense of normalcy as well.
Right.
So I do encourage people to get up. If you normally work out in the morning, it might be a modified workout. We go in my backyard instead of down the road. And it's going to be a little bit different. But to get up, get active, especially getting sunlight, it's good not only for your mood, but also for your immune system.
Yes.
So it's a great way just to get some sunlight, get some fresh air, break up the tension and the stress that we're all carrying right now. And being able to move your body helps to get rid of that. But then come in, get dressed, and then get to work and take your lunch break like you normally would, and then connect with friends at night and keeping up the things you enjoy.
So I agree 100% with what Dr. Bodden is saying, and as she highlighted there very well, we are creatures of pattern and routine. So uncertainty really undermines that aspect of us. Another thing we like is, along with our routine, is we like to have certain outlets that give us that sense of connectedness.
Yes.
Things like going to church, watching your favorite sports team, going to the gym, going to a yoga class, walking on the beach. So if you notice, I'm listing many of the things that have been taken away.
Yes.
And that's what makes a pandemic even more unusual or disruptive than, let's say, other types of natural disasters.
Yes.
That a lot of the outlets that we would, or the normal institutions that we would lean on to bring us through this and to share, have been, in a sense, taken away from us.
Right.
So that's why we are really trying to underscore as much as we can, even more so than at any other time, having a routine, writing it out, putting it out, especially for families also that have children at home.
Yes.
That need to be schooled at home, and you're also working from home, and you have to prepare a meal, and you want to keep the place clean, and it's causing a lot of additional stressors that require us really to use, as Dr. Bodden would say, the cognitive approach to things. Many times we, as mental health professionals, come and we give certain tools. Getting rest and being careful of using substances in excess, and exercise and self-care, and all of those things are extremely valuable. But one piece of that, which is the heavy lifting part of that, is working on our thoughts, is working on the cognitive part of things, which is the hardest part.
Yes.
And this is a time where we have to do that. There's not an easy way around it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really writing things down, coming up with a schedule and a pattern. Just as you said, you might not want to necessarily wear your shirt and tie every day because the dry cleaners are closed. So you might say, well, I'm going to go through that. But I wouldn't necessarily advise sitting in your pajamas, working online. Get up, have a shower, put something on. Try to make it as much of a routine as possible.
Yes.
And you'll find that you're better able to handle things.
And of course, if people feel that they need to speak to someone who's a mental health professional on a confidential basis, there is the mental health line,
Correct.
which is available.
Correct.
And I believe both yourself and Dr. Bodden would have been involved in that. Dr. Bodden, did you want to speak to that at all?
The mental health helpline?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm helping through the Cayman Islands Psychological Association, but my partner, Ms. Shannon Seymour's done a lot more, and she's been working with Dr. Lockhart to make sure that, when people do call the helpline, they'll get support right away from a trained mental health professional, but then also if they need follow-up support as well, they'll then be able to access the correct services for what's going on for them. So it's a great addition to what Cayman has been putting together to support our people. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to run in a minute due to a prior commitment, so I apologize. So I just wanted to, if I could, just touch on what Dr. Lockhart had said as far as changing the thought.
Of course.
And that's something I think it's one of the government posts, actually. It's about changing the way that you're talking to yourself and the way that you're seeing things. I said, rather than being stuck at home, seeing yourself as being safe at home. And that's a great example of how the one word can change the feeling of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I've really been encouraging clients to see this as an opportunity. There are things that we've lost going through this process, to see it as an opportunity to connect with people who we don't normally talk to try something different in our workout routines, to finally take time to figure out how to work social media, to finally clean out the closet, seeing the opportunities and things that we can do,
yes,
as opposed to what we can't do.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bodden. I really appreciate you taking
your
Dr.
time.
Bodden. And just by way of reminder to the public, the number for the mental health hotline, which is available from Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., is 1-800-534-6463, or MIND, M-I-N-D, for the last 4 digits. And again, that's available between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So, Dr. Lockhart?
Yes. And we've actually been getting quite a good response from people calling in on that line. And just to note, although it's 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, if there is or if there are mental health type challenges or emergencies on the weekend, the regular number at the hospital can be called if it's an urgent situation.
The 911 number you're referring to, sir?
Well, not really if it's an emergency 911, but if it's something more urgent, then the accident and emergency can be contacted.
Right.
And they will also discuss what's going on, and if need, professionals that are on call, that can be contacted.
So, okay. So, in other words, there are, of course, we are fortunate enough to have established by the relevant authorities so many different numbers and lines that you can access information depending on the circumstances. So, for example, if you think you might have symptoms, you're asked to call the flu hotline, which is, of course, 1-800-534-8600 or 947-3077.
Correct.
And then if you have non-medical questions, generally, you would contact the National Emergency Center, 1-800-534-6555. And indeed, as if you have pharmaceutical questions, they even have a WhatsApp line now if you need refills. But you're saying that if you have a non-emergency, you call the regular hospital line on 949-8600.
Right. No, so I'm saying if there's any mental health question, because it's really a helpline, concern, a certain challenge, and you're not sure, if you have a practitioner in the community, you can always reach out to the practitioner. I know that a lot of the community practitioners, both private and those that work for government agencies, and the physicians in the community, both government and private physicians, are also fielding calls and assessing and dealing with things that way. But if you can't get through there, then you can always call the helpline, again, at 1-800-534-6463. But again, that's Monday to Friday. So if you find that it's on a weekend and you're stuck, I don't want you people to feel that they can't reach out to the hospital with a mental health or a psychiatric type issue.
Of course, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Lockhart. We're going to go to the news, but please stay tuned to Talk Today. We'll be right back with Dr. Mark Lockhart.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have on Island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Cayman reports 4 further positive cases for COVID-19 infection from 18 test results received Sunday. Government says all 4 are travel-related incidents, 2 actual travelers and 2 in contact with travelers. All 4 are isolated. Starting today, there are new supermarket visit rules, and until further notice, the stores will be available on alternate day openings from Monday to Saturday by shoppers' last names. A through K can go on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, while L through Z on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. In news elsewhere, the growth in coronavirus cases in hard-hit Spain appears to be slowing, the country's foreign minister has told the BBC. Another 6,400 cases were confirmed on Monday, the lowest increase in new cases for a week. The total of deaths reached 7,340 after 812 new fatalities. It comes as a national lockdown expanded to instruct non-essential workers to stay home for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the doctor leading the country's response has tested positive. U.S. President Donald Trump has said federal coronavirus guidelines such as social distancing will be extended across the U.S. until at least April 30th. He had previously suggested that they could be relaxed as early as Easter, which falls in mid-April. Trump said the highest point of the death rate is likely to hit in 2 weeks. He appeared to be referring to peak infection rates that experts fear could overwhelm hospitals. And Sir Elton John enjoyed a less than quiet night in on Sunday as he was digitally joined by quarantined stars from around the music world for a virtual coronavirus benefit concert. The British pop legend hosted iHeart Living Room Concert for America from his home in Los Angeles. The online festival featured performances from the likes of Mariah Carey from their sofas and home studios. It raised funds for 2 U.S. charities. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. This is Patrick Schmid sitting in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and we are joined by Dr. Mark Lockhart, and when available again, Dr. Alexandra Bodden will be rejoining us. Just by way of reminder, you can call and ask questions of Dr. Lockhart by dialing 949-8037 or toll free courtesy of Flow on 1-800-534-8255. We are discussing, of course, issues relating to coping mechanisms, stress management, and basically using this difficult time of the COVID-19 pandemic to turn it into as positive an experience as possible insofar as what we can learn from it, what protocols we can put in place for future issues that may arise, such as this, and indeed, in the interim, on a day-to-day basis, how we function as normally as possible without incurring additional stress, which no one needs, of course.
So one of the other things, Patrick, is that we need to take inventory, I like to say, of our needs and our wants. We generally don't do that as human beings, or we don't put enough thought behind that. And now is a time to do so, especially with the restrictions that we have to deal with.
Yes,
so it's really looking at, do I have enough food in the house right now for another 7 to 10 days? Do I really need to go to the supermarket and stand in line? Is it really a need, or is it that I just really want to get out, or I just want a particular item or 2 or 3 items? Mm-hmm. So it's one of the other tips that we're saying is try a few times a day just to kind of take a step back and say, what is it that I really need right now? Mm-hmm. And some of those needs, or most of those needs, are not material.
Right.
Do I need a break? Do I need just to sit down and maybe just decompress for 15 minutes?
Yes.
So what are our needs? What are our wants, or what we would like? And then taking stock of that, weighing those to see what is really a need and what's a want, what's appropriate, and how to manage that. That can also help to lower some of the anxiety that we have.
Right. And of course, we're very fortunate now that it's a learning process for the entire community. Right. And as we can see, for example, with the announcement of how they're scheduling the opportunities to visit the supermarket in a way that hopefully people will be served even more efficiently, and will not have to be stressed by waiting in queues for extensive periods of time, or in the sun, or what have you. You see by and large the entire community working together again, which is definitely a positive thing.
It's a positive.
Yes.
And I think it's important to underscore to everyone out there that this is a significant moment in human history that we are living right now.
Yes.
I say that not to create alarm, not to frighten, but to give us that sense of empowerment to realize that the things that we are doing today, the things that we all do when we are finished with this broadcast, can be significant to helping to save a life, to helping to preserve our health, and to helping to preserve our community.
Yes, sir.
What's going to happen, I was just talking with a family member the other day that, in my opinion, 2-3 years from now, and even further, this is going to become now the moment in time that separates, before COVID in 2020 and after. What you were doing, what you did, how you helped to contribute to helping keep your community safe.
Yes.
The powerful tool in all of this is that staying at home, following what the recommendations are, not to congregate in large crowds, to restrict going out as best as we can, plays a major part in terms of containing this virus and getting us through this as a community.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Lockhart, I was wondering, I was thinking as you were mentioning, the potential stresses that one can encounter. How does a person who may not necessarily recognize that they are suffering from stress or anxiety, what are some of the symptoms that we can identify and make sure that we sort of self-check?
Right. So, excellent question. So anxiety, from a medical perspective, has a very strong chemical component.
Yes.
I always like to give the example of us being frightened, and I said there's not a human being on this planet that can never relate to having being surprised or startled. Or somebody's played a prank on you and you become startled and you turn around. Your heart rate goes up, your respiration rate is up, and if we were to take your pulse at that point, your pulse would be elevated. It's not all in your head. There is a real physiological response.
Yes.
Now, for many of us, periods like this create that physiological response on an ongoing basis. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily in every person to that level of a full-blown panic, but you're not feeling balanced. You're feeling edgy. That increases irritability. You have a shorter fuse. So one of the first signs to watch for is, am I less patient, especially with those around me? Especially having kids at home and they're being schooled at home and I'm trying to work at the same time. Am I finding that I'm a little bit more cranky and irritable than usual?
Yes.
Has my appetite changed? And in this type of situation, it can go either way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a reduction in appetite, but what we find many times, and we're seeing some of that in terms of the purchases in the supermarket, is that people are going to be buying lots of things to comfort themselves. I heard a story of a gentleman that generally is very fit, keeps himself together, doesn't eat junk food, and recently his wife told me that, they went to the supermarket and he was buying up all kind of things. He bought a 2-gallon
bucket of ice cream.
And where that wasn't his norm.
Yes.
But he figured, look, I'm going to be locked away. I'm not going to be working as much, or we can't go out. So let me get a lot of nice things that probably I wouldn't normally eat and so on to kind of pacify me. And again, those are ways that we deal with anxiety, but that can have negative connotations.
Of course. So maybe a little bit is okay, but too much is definitely too much.
Exactly. Monitoring our sleep, the amount of alcohol we consume.
Yes.
Another thing is that, remember, during crises like this, many times a lot of the negative and complicated mental health repercussions don't appear now.
Right.
We'll be seeing them 4 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, 12 weeks from now.
Yes.
So that's why it's very important to put the things in place. Mm-hmm. While we're going through this period in time, to keep yourself as healthy as possible.
Is that sort of similar to the effects of shock on a person?
Very similar. Excuse me. Very similar in that it's because of how we're designed also as human beings. And some of it has to do with the same chemicals that I was talking about with anxiety or our fight or flight response.
So the cortisol.
Exactly, and adrenaline and so on.
Right.
What we're doing right now is we're trying to survive.
Yes.
And that's another reason why you see this manifestation of everyone coming out to the supermarkets. And we are in a mode of trying to figure out the best way that we know how to process things to survive.
Right.
As time goes on, that survival mode then starts to change. And then when we start to pass that mode, that's when we start to see that some of the maladaptive type behaviors, if we weren't sleeping as well, or because we've been working at home for 2 weeks, we stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning watching the news and then waking up whenever to work, and we're not as productive, and we're eating any type of thing, or we're drinking more alcohol, or we've put our exercise aside because we're not going to the gym anymore. And these are the things we really want to be even more stringent about adhering to at this point in time.
Right, of course.
And it will put us in a better place 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks from now.
And although, Doctor, some might say, well, we've been through this in a way before because we certainly had curfews for those of us who were here during Ivan, but it is a unique set of circumstances on its own. Ivan came, it did a lot of damage, and it left, and then we had to deal with the aftermath. And unlike, for example, the curfews post Ivan, now we still have the use of our telecommunication systems, of our electrical facilities, all of the creature comforts, shall we say. We still have those. It's just that we have to exercise something which we didn't have to exercise during Ivan, which is the physical distancing.
Correct. So you're right. So in Ivan, we did have curfews, and a big part of it is because we didn't have any electricity at night.
Yes.
But people were able to gather together.
Yes.
So there was a lot of singing and music in certain people's yards, and getting together and laughing. On Sundays, the churches were packed.
Yes.
People were able to communicate and interact in that way.
Yes.
You had your AA meetings for those that required that. You could go and to your doctor's office and sit there and get that support.
Yes.
Those things have been cut off right now.
Yeah.
And what we have to be careful about is making sure that we preserve certain types of social connectedness. And that's why I said, again, I prefer physical distancing to using that social distancing or social isolation. We still need the social component. It's just keeping a distance with that.
Dr. Lockhart, we have a caller on the line, so I'd just like to go directly to the caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I think it's a very, 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 very important conversation. It's beyond today because I think we're in times like we've never seen. And I threw this out some while back, a week or 2 years, saying that there are Caymanians within this whole community that have been through a lot of these kind of things, not anything with the coronavirus, but with similarities, who have, survived them, who have been through them with, levels of stress that I don't, to my estimation, have not occurred in this Cayman Islands community yet with this coronavirus. But it would be an idea, I think, not only if that you on your program, but various other programs, maybe bring some of those folks or connect up with them. Don't bring them into the studio. Connect up with them electronically, and just get them to throw out a few of the things that help get them through these, really taxing times in their lives. Because I think, as Dr. Lockhart said, we're not. This is a very unusual occurrence or happening that we're going through, and some of the social practices, really pale in what some of those folks might have gone through. But I think the general tone of the discussion today is very important to the community, and I hope that a lot of us are listening. I mean, the disciplines. And one thing that the doctor mentioned, needs and wants. I think that should be on the mind of everybody. Do I need this or do I just want it? We refer back to the shopping sprees, more or less. The corrective measures, following the instructions, and there's so many things. And I think that as this thing moves along, there has to be a lot of thinking outside the box to bring some of these things into more play. The spiritual level, and it's really great to see that creeping into much more of our consciousness, public consciousness, manifested consciousness.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Which is very important to us all. And the thing about rest, I think that we all got to pull together in this whole situation. And if we don't, then I can only relate to my experience some 62 years ago when I spent actually about 11 months, but 9 months of them really in I would say taxing time. Yeah, isolated on a little rock in the Pacific, 6,000 feet long and 3,500 feet wide. And this was, of course, during the height of the Cold War. And some of the things that, the stresses that we had, but we all pulled through it. And speaking from my experience, one of the things that really, I think, kept me buoyed and kept me moving forward was the spirituality that I had obtained from growing up in the churches around Cayman. And, I think that needs to wind its way at the more heightened levels within this community at this time. And with the kind of communication capacity that we have in this island, there should not be any way that it could not be accomplished. We got something like 19 radio stations, and I'm not sure what all the other ones are doing, but I think Radio Cayman and what I've heard of Rooster, they're doing quite a good job of trying to keep the public aware of the seriousness of where we're at with all this. So I think all I can say is let's all keep up the good work, get our rest, and just do what the authorities are asking us to do.
Mr. Banks, sorry, if I could just quickly ask a short question of you. In relation to the spirituality aspect of things, of course, you mentioned that everybody, in particular the authorities and the media, are making best efforts to ensure that the general population are all informed of what's going on and the seriousness of the nature of the matter that we're facing. But going back to coping mechanisms and what you mentioned about your own spirituality and how it helped you through a particularly difficult time of isolation, can I just ask, sir, did it also help not just from the perspective of the strength that you derive from it, but also giving you the insight that, there will be a future, there is a purpose for me, it doesn't all end here, I don't have to feel like it's all coming crashing down. Would that be right to say, sir?
Well, that is right. That is right. I think there are various quotations, various verses in the Bible that speak directly to this. I will not forsake you. One that comes in.
Yes, sir.
And I can't bring them all to memory. One time I think I had to memorize most of them, but and I think that is one element that will help really greatly to get us through. I mean, and just going back to what I mentioned about myself 62 years ago. I mean, I was walking by, and I don't know whether you really realize what liquid oxygen is like, but I was walking by liquid oxygen portable plants on my way from where I stayed in a barracks to the radio facility, and walking by a lot of other contaminated things that if we made a mistake, it was out. So we have to really concentrate on following what the authorities are saying, because I think they got us on a pretty good sail, a pretty good plot to move forward to where we can get through this whole situation, wholly.
Yes, sir.
I would just urge everybody to I'll just relate just as one of the incidents from my experience, and this was during the height of the Cold War, during the height of the nuclear energy proliferation. The situation was Operation Hardtack. So that'll give you an idea what it. We were to do 3 high explosive nuclear devices in the atmosphere. We did 2. The first one, the guidance on the rocket, which was the Redstone rocket, which was the only thing in the U.S. arsenal at the time that they saw that was capable of getting it up there without blowing up on the pad. And it was supposed to be detonated, and this was megaton devices between 35 and 40 miles up into the stratosphere. The guidance on the rocket system did not function the way that we thought it would, and it detonated between 15 and 18 miles up. The heat that came from that explosion killed all the birds on the island. But thinking back on that, I think all of us, and very few people I think will experience this, of seeing a high intensity nuclear explosion in the atmosphere.
Yes, sir.
I witnessed 2 of them.
Yes, sir.
But getting back to the spirituality, it was that one thing, I think, as far as I was concerned, and a lot of us, because on that small space that we were in, we had one time about 4,000 people on there, civilians, military personnel, and not all of us out there was spiritual, but there were some of us who, had church services in the Quonset hut, who met for prayer, and I was at the radio station, so I made sure that my aspect of it was well distributed.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, that's just one. But again, before I go, I think there are other people in the community who have experienced a lot of this, and what they said could, enlighten the whole community on how we can progress and get through this whole coronavirus environment that we're in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banks. We have another call on the line, but before we go to that caller, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back. Please stay tuned to Talk Today.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
This is JJ the Iceman. This is JJ the Iceman.
This is where the ride begins. A magical musical journey.
Weeknights on Radio Command, 8 to 10.
Music
on
Express.
Friday nights, 8 to midnight.
Music Express.
Brought to you by the Anti-Money Laundering Unit. Join the fight and learn more about financial crimes. Visit the Anti-Money Laundering website at amlu.gov.ky.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000. Stay home, Cayman.
Daisy.
Yes, Glenford.
You going doctor or?
No.
Supermarket or minimart?
Not me.
You going pharmacist?
No.
Bank or credit union?
No way.
Gas station?
No.
So what in the world you doing on the road?
Oh, but you see me, so you on the road too?
You ever hear about Essential?
Well, Glenford, a little plug you just give me.
Now you try to go home and keep yourself safe.
Stay home to save lives.
For the health of it, Radio Cayman's premier health show is brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy, the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association, Holy Cross Hospital,
Cayman Fertility Center,
and EatingClean.com.
This is For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
The Cayman Islands Bankers Association, CIBA member retail banks, have announced amended branch operating hours and the temporary closure of some branches in support of the government's mandate. Effective Monday, 30th March, Mondays through Friday, the following branches will be open 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. until further notice, with priority being given to seniors and those considered vulnerable. Open Cayman National Bank Limited, Camana Bay, and Cayman Brac and Little Cayman branches. Closed Countryside Shopping Village, Elgin Avenue, Buckingham Square, Centennial Towers. Open Scotiabank and Trust Cayman Limited, Camana Bay. Closed Crew Road. Open Fidelity Bank Cayman Limited, Dr. Roy's Drive. Closed Fidelity Financial Center. Open Butterfield Bank Cayman Limited, Butterfield Place. Closed Midtown Plaza, Camana Bay, Governors Square. Open First Caribbean International Bank Cayman Limited, Main Street. Closed Health City, Plaza Venetia and Regatta. Open RBC Royal Bank Cayman Limited, Shedden Road. Closed Shamrock Road, Red Bay. CIBA member retail banks will serve customers in accordance with social distancing guidelines within the banking hall and staff operating environment. Customers are encouraged to make use of their electronic banking services wherever possible.
National Drug and Alcohol Facts Month in Cayman is bringing a variety of competitions for all ages. Teachers, students, and schools, this is your chance to win big prizes by entering one or more of our competitions. Secondary schools and students, enter our TikTok competition, Battle of the Canvases, and the poster contest. Primary schools, your classroom door competition is all about healthy living. All the deadlines and information is on our website. Enter the competition. Let's get creative and shatter the myths today. For more information, check out our website, ndc.ky, call 949-9000, or email info@ndc.ky.
Digicel is all about giving customers more convenience, more peace of mind, and more flexibility. Do more with the new My Digicel app. Buy plans, pay your bill, track your credit, track your data, and monitor your accounts. It's easy to use and has everything you need in one place. It's time to simplify your life, so go ahead and see for yourself. Download the new My Digicel app today. More made simple.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm here with Dr. Mark Lockhart, who is talking with us about the various ways in which one can best cope with their current circumstances with COVID-19. I'm also needing to remind you that we are scheduled to go to the press briefing, government press briefing, at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So we approximately have about a half an hour. If you wish to call in, this would be an ideal time to do so. And just by way of reminder, 949-8037 or toll free 1-800-534-8255. Thank you so much. We do have a call on the line, Dr. Lockhart, so perhaps before you respond to the previous caller, you might wish to take this one. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lockhart.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
And I don't know if Dr. Bodden is still there, but...
No.
Well, even so, I hope that she's listening, and welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
This sort of thing is so needed. I just had, I just had an idea. I had that for a long time now. I have an idea that, our children are graduating soon from high schools and stuff, and a lot of them probably have plans to go off for further education, to universities and colleges and stuff like that. I just thought that this would be a good time for parents to teach their children, whether it's girls or whether it's boys or whatever. The basic things of cooking and washing their clothes so they don't come back. The clothes were white, but they come back with the clothes being yellow and purple and pink and things like that. Because in universities, I know that they just house you for 1 year, and then after that you have to find your own accommodations. So I thought that would be a good way, not only for the children to be with the parents, or forgive me, not children, young people, I should say. I thought that would be a good way of occupying their time, and they'll learn something as well. Some do know how to take care of themselves, but some don't. I also thought that, and I have mentioned this at home several times, I also thought, since we have so many pastors in this island, if they could call in every now and then, whether it be on, on the telephone or WhatsApp or whatever, with a prayer, a song, a Bible verse, because no, we can't really go to church, and so many people is missing that. I heard Dr. Reverend Bloomfield, Yvette Bloomfield, on Sunday morning, and I can't explain to you what that really did to me. It made me have a good feelings for the whole day. Thank you, Reverend Yvette. It enlightened my spirit for the whole day, and now I'm still talking about it. So I wish that she would do it again, and some more of our pastors, since we're saying we're a Christian community. We're losing sight. The children is asking when can they go back to Sunday school and things like that. That is just an idea, and I hope people take it as I said it, an idea. So I thank you again, and I thank the government for all that they're doing, and I pray to God for health and strength for them and their families and all of the Cayman Islands. Thanks again, and God bless us all.
God bless you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. That's a great point. This is a wonderful time for parents to spend that time in terms of teaching young people certain skills that we're going to need.
Yes.
And those skills can come down to, just as that caller said, learning how to care for yourself, washing your clothes, little things like that, especially those that are going to be going away to university in the coming years or months, hopefully. And I agree with that caller's suggestion that professionals in the community, pastors, those that give other types of guidance, there are opportunities to reach out.
Yes.
Opportunities through this medium, through others, through just calling groups of people, through using certain technology to have prayers, to suggest things of that, that caliber can be extremely supportive.
And it ties in, pardon me, with what Mr. Banks was saying about spirituality as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. And following up on what Mr. Banks said, what we also recognize is that after the initial period of shock, to a certain extent, of us adjusting to this new reality, it's very important for us also to balance the news and the information with stories of resiliency, with stories of those who have overcome not just this illness and dealing with this process, but those that have been through similar types of events or other disasters in a sense and have been able to come through.
Right.
So tapping into the more experienced members of our community. I don't necessarily like the term older person. And I say that for several reasons. Number one, I'm close to being an older person. Number two, I feel it negates the complete concept of what a so-called older person brings. It's not just the age, it's the experience. And experience is something that you can't buy.
Yes.
You have to live it. Now is a good time to tap into that.
Yes, sir. Just to ask, sir. By the way, we have 3 callers on the line, so you might wish to take those calls, sir. But just to quickly say that what you're saying about resilience resonates as well, because healthy mind, healthy body.
Exactly.
And we always have that choice, don't we?
Exactly.
Look, the glass is half full or half empty.
Exactly.
And
so we're seafarers. We're known as that, as being the core history of who we are. Going to sea, there's nothing more isolating.
Yes.
And I'm not the expert because I'm afraid of the sea, but there are a lot of experts out there who could tell you there's nothing more isolating.
Yes, sir.
Probably the only thing more isolating than going to sea for a long period is going to space. You got it.
Yes, sir. So we do have 3 callers on the line. I just remind everyone, please, that we have approximately 20 more minutes before the press briefing. And so if you could try to keep your comments or your question short as possible, and then allow us an opportunity at the end of the 3 calls to give Dr. Lockhart a chance to respond to each of you. So going to the first call, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I just wanted to say something about, someone sent me a copy of the video of that accident where that young man was killed up there in the highway there, and he died there in his car accident. And I was so appalled. I was so disgusted. There were 2 people, the guy that was taking it, filming the thing, and the one who was standing on the other side. I guess he must have called the police. And the film showed a close-up of the guy, and he's there, he's shaking. And his head is popped open.
Yes, sir. I would no need to be aware of the circumstances, sir. So you don't need to give the graphic detail, please.
But the reason why I say that is because I remember 1959, I saved a man's life by not waiting for, pick him up, do something, hold his head up, he's bleeding. And the accident that this guy that I was telling you about was something similar to that. In fact, they had went over a barbed wire fence. The car had went over, and I had to go over the fence, and I had to help some of the guys that were with me. And we pulled him out. We put him in the front seat, and he wasn't saying anything, but we put a cap with the head back on where it almost come off. And we take him to the hospital, and the guy lived until a few years ago when he died. And I'm saying, what's wrong with these people who, there are idiots in this world that don't think about nothing. They just want to get the film and get, oh my God, help us. Cayman has lost its humanity.
Thank you very much, sir. We certainly appreciate your call and your contribution. We're going to go to the next call, Dr. Lockhart.
Yes.
Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to Doc as well. Yeah,
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Ormond up here in West Bay.
Yes, sir.
Charles' brother, you remember Charles?
Yes,
my brother
sir.
Charles.
Yes, sir. I know you well.
Right. Trying to get myself familiar so you know who's talking to
Oh, I know your voice, sir.
Okay. Now, all due respect to you and others that are so positive and helpful, I can't say enough to you folks. But, what our blessings right now comes from our forefathers that has been sowing and planting these seeds for so many generations. Good godly, down-to-earth Christian people. Now, this reminds me of when I was like 11 years old. Every day now looks like Sunday, and I'm just enjoying it, just enjoying it out of this world. But what I want to say, really, you know, we have thousands of people that go to church, and it would be good for them to, or all of us, shall I say, not them, all of us, to ever so often look into the Bible and see when Jesus was walking on the water, they thought it was some spirit or something. And then when the ship got into the storm, they were so paranoid and panicked. They said, "Oh, Jesus, help us! We're gonna drown." Remember what he said? "O ye of little faith." We need to be positive, and while we have to be careful, extremely careful, we have to think that the God of yesteryears is the God of here today to really bring us out of this. And I think this is a big move by God Almighty to show us without really, for the want of a better word, not firing a shot, close down the world, globally shut down in a matter of what, a week or so. This is something that we should probably, or not probably, we should really stop and think, is this some super hand that's into this thing that's trying to show us something? I'm not preaching the Sermon of the Mount, but what I want to say, the big problem is here, as I see it, we forgot the Creator. We never remember him. A lot of people do, and a lot of people don't, until we fall into these kind of situations. Then we said, "Oh my God," you know, and no. You must remember God Almighty in the best of times. However, saying that I am far from being perfect, I got my shortcomings. But I know there's a God. I pray, I worship God, and thank God I have no fear. I'm going to be careful in me and my family. It's going to be victorious. So I just thank you guys so much for listening to my little portion, and have yourself a pleasant day. Thank you again.
Thank you for that positive note, sir. I'm pleased to say that that our third caller is actually Dr. Bodden, who has rejoined us. Dr. Bodden, are you there? Hello, Dr. Bodden?
Hi, yes, sir.
Welcome back. Please stop calling me
you.
sir. You're aging me.
Yeah.
But we have to quickly go to a commercial break. But we'll be back very shortly.
Digicel's Shake to Win is back. Every Saturday, Digicel is giving you a chance to win LTE handsets, cash prizes, data, D-Music subscription, gas vouchers, grocery vouchers, and that's not all. Every week, you get a chance to win a $5,000 regional prize. Don't miss out. Simply download the new My Digicel app, activate a plan if you're not already on one, and shake to win every Saturday. It's that simple. My Digicel. More made simple. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
A soft curfew is in effect from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. until further notice, and all establishments, institutions, businesses, organizations, and offices must be closed. Employees can work remotely from home but must not be required to go to the office unless they have been officially exempted by a competent authority. As a reminder to all persons employed within the public service, unless they are specifically designated as an essential worker, they must work remotely from home. The public is reminded that during this time, for the purposes of ensuring persons abide with the shelter-in-place requirements, a police officer may require a person to answer any questions to enable the police officer to ascertain who the person is and whether he or she is an exempted person. Where the person does not satisfy the police officer that the person falls within the exempted categories, the police officer may direct the person to go immediately to the person's place of abode or place of residence. A police officer may also use reasonable force if necessary in the exercise of this power.
Just a reminder, coming up at 2 p.m. this afternoon, Radio Cayman will be bringing you live the government press briefing with a COVID-19 update.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Home isolation means staying indoors and completely avoiding contact with other people. You need to do this if you have symptoms of COVID-19. If you are practicing home isolation, you should stay in a well-ventilated room with a window to outside that can be opened separate from other people in your home. Keep the door closed and use a separate bathroom from the rest of the household, if available. If you have to share these facilities, regular sterilization will be required. Consider drawing up a bathroom schedule for washing or bathing and have the isolated person using the facilities last.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I have the pleasure of being joined by Dr. Mark Lockhart and Dr. Alexandra Bodden, who's on the line with us. So I am going to be quiet and let these good people speak about the various issues that we've been hearing about thus far. And also just to say that, by way of reminder, that we have approximately 10 minutes, so we're closing the lines now, as we'll be going to the press briefing at approximately 2 o'clock. So without further ado, Dr. Lockhart, Dr. Bodden.
So, Dr. Bodden, we were talking about the power of resiliency and positive stories to balance a lot of the negative and a lot of the worries that we're hearing. And a few of the callers that we just had really highlighted that to show the wealth of experience that we have in our community with many of our more senior persons having gone away and experienced a lot, gone to sea, which is very isolating, been participants in war and other major human tragedies that have given them insight about keeping hope alive and moving forward. So maybe your thoughts from a cognitive and psychological standpoint on that.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Well, the Caymanian people are very strong people, and I have every faith that we're going to pull through this. So I really appreciate our community, Caymanians, and in non-Caymanians that live here, I appreciate all of you. And I do think we have a lot to pull from in our heritage and our culture as well. I know one of the gentlemen talked about prayer and religion. I know for a lot of people that is a big source of comfort, a way of connecting with people as well. I know a lot of churches are doing online services. And so I'd say, finding whatever it is for you to make meaning out of what's going on, whether it's believing that there's a higher purpose or there's a plan, sometimes that can be a way of having comfort going through so much unknown. But I also believe in positivity as well. So I'm glad you guys talked about that with resilience, which is looking for the good things. Gratitude is a huge thing right now with mindfulness and positive psychology, which is looking for things that we're grateful for. This is good not only for us in our day-to-day routines, seeing successes and things we did well, as opposed to what we didn't get done or didn't do so well. And being grateful to friends and family as well. When all of us are stuck in close quarters, it's very easy to get irritated and frustrated with us all of us stepping on each other all the time. But being able to let people know what we appreciate about them and that we're grateful not only brings good feelings to us, but also lets them feel good. And also, if it's something that's helpful to us, they're more likely to do it again. So I highly recommend gratitude in relationships as well.
Oh, that's powerful. And I can't underscore enough the power of reaching out to close family members and friends, especially those again that have had experience, that are maybe a little bit older, or again, I don't like that term, but those that have had quite a bit of experience. I know in our own life, in my family's life, there are two wonderful people that are not even in Cayman. They live actually in the States, going through quite a lot, but there's a lot of support from them. One is Judy Jenkins and her partner, Jess McCollum. They're listening to the show right now, and these are people that give a lot of support. They love the Cayman Islands, are praying for us. So I believe that all of these types of positive vibes and energy also helps us all to move forward.
And doctors, if I could just ask, we're talking about the experience, and I'm glad you said it's not just necessarily older persons, because I was thinking, there could be a sort of exchange, if you will, insofar as some people may not be as familiar with the technology.
Correct.
A lot of the younger people are,
right,
for example, and perhaps, you teach me a bit about your resilience and
right,
how to think positively, and
right,
I teach you a little bit about how to use WhatsApp.
And maybe record you.
Right.
Maybe Mr. Banks can, he can be recorded about his experience and so on, and that can be played, or there can be different blogs that we can listen to at different times. So there's a lot that's still there for us to develop in the coming days and weeks and months.
And if I may add as well, so when Dr. Walker's talking about the cognitive perspective, positive thinking is a good way of building the good stuff. But I think it's also important to validate difficult experiences and emotions that we're going through now. When you talk to the older guys, they'll tell you how scary it could be being out on the ship, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing when you're going to see your family again. So I also want to say that it's okay to be anxious, to be nervous, to be scared, to be angry, to be upset and lonely, to experience any number of these difficult emotions. That's okay. And so, and it's okay to validate that as well. I'm nervous right now, or I'm scared right now because this is a difficult situation for everyone. But then add in something else on there. So it's scary right now, but I'm getting as much information as I can to keep myself and my family safe, and I'm going to make the best of today.
Exactly. And that's 100% correct. And adding to that is you can actually participate in helping us all by following the recommendations that are being made in terms of staying in. You're keeping us healthy. You're keeping yourself from taking up a space in a doctor's office or in the emergency room. And that then keeps the frontline providers available to be able to address the urgent situations that come up. One other thing I wanted to just highlight, Dr. Bodden, is about the helpline again. The helpline was a real community effort. So it was initiated at the HSA in the psychiatric and psychological department there. And then we got help through the Ministry of Health, the Cayman Islands Psychological Association, the Department of Counseling Services, EAP, and a lot of private counselors. I want to really highlight that from a mental health perspective. The providers that are in our community have come together, and I've never seen it like this before. We have to remember that during Ivan, we didn't have the numbers of professionals that we have today. And I want to commend the mental health community for standing up, both public and private. One little note is that there's still some struggle in the community among providers, not just mental health providers, but private physicians, for example, in terms of trying to reach out to their patients. And we're still having a little bit of trouble with the insurance companies. I don't necessarily want to slam them too hard today, although I'm leaning towards that. I'm still giving them the hope of stepping up to the plate, as they've said, to really help the providers in the community reach out to their patients by telephone, rather than forcing providers to have to ask patients to come into medical practices for issues that could be handled over the telephone adequately. It's important to note that in the United States, telemedicine has been completely opened up. Right. So the codes that are being used and the addresses that are being used to treat people, that's now being open. And I'd like to see that here to help protect our population.
Yes. So certainly that capacity is there for them to expand the scope of what is covered and what isn't covered effectively.
Correct. There should not be a pressure on anyone right now thinking that if my doctor calls me and I have a telephone conversation and my meds are renewed and I go over things, that I would be stuck with that bill later on down the line.
Right.
No one is trying to take advantage of this at this point. We're trying to help and keep our community safe.
Dr. Borden?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It's become a difficult situation, for clients as well as the owners of the businesses to figure out what's going on. But I am glad that we do have the government services available for counseling, and I'm glad that Dr. Lockhart and the powers that be on Island are looking at trying to figure this out with the insurance companies.
And
especially if this is going to be going on for a while, we need a system that's sustainable for everyone.
Absolutely. If I could just take this opportunity, I'm not quite sure when we'll be pushed over to the press briefing, but I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the listening audience, of course, for all their contribution, but especially to thank both of you who I know have extremely busy schedules, for all of your contribution for the benefit of our wider public. It's certainly a pleasure to have you both participating in this show.
Thank you, Patrick, and for you to invite us and to see the value of this, we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure that as soon as we're ready, then we will be transferred over. But we do have to break first for the news. Just before we go to news, just one quick point, which is simply to say that Dr. Borden was making the point of the importance of validation. And at the same time, I was thinking we must validate but not overly emphasize, if that's the right term, the negativity that comes with obvious challenges, I suppose. With that, we're going to go to news and hopefully have a few more minutes afterwards.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Regional bank CIBC First Caribbean is moving to assist countries across the region to purchase much-needed COVID-19 testing kits. The bank, through its charitable arm, the First Caribbean International Comtrust Foundation, will donate a total of $250,000 towards the purchase of the kits in the countries across its regional footprint. The bank will make the donation through its various operating companies across the Caribbean. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, the growth in coronavirus cases in hard-hit Spain appears to be slowing, the country's foreign minister has said. Another 6,400 cases were confirmed today, the lowest increase in new cases for a week. The total of deaths reached 7,340 after 812 new fatalities. It comes as a national lockdown expanded to instruct non-essential workers to stay home for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the doctor leading the country's response has tested positive. And an Australian astrophysicist who hoped to create a device to help stop people catching the coronavirus has ended up in hospital after getting magnets stuck up his nose. Dr. Daniel Reardon came up with a plan to create a necklace which would react if your hands were near your face. Unfortunately, the device did not work quite as planned. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For nearly 20 years, Kingsport Center has been the heart of the Cayman fitness and wellness community. In order to ensure the welfare of all, we will be temporarily closing on March 23rd, reopening on April 6th, unless otherwise notified by the Cayman Islands government. During these trying times, we encourage everyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, and soul. We look forward to continuing providing you with world-class service in the very near future. Remain strong and continue to show the world the power of Cayman unity. Kingsport Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Self-isolation is an effective precautionary measure to protect those around you, your family, friends, and colleagues from contracting COVID-19. You or the person you are caring for should remain in your home except for getting medical care. Do not go to work, school, or public areas. You will need to ask for help if you require groceries, other shopping, or medications. Please seek the advice from the Public Health Department.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. We're on again just briefly until we go to the government press briefing. So I still have the pleasure of Dr. Mark Lockhart and Dr. Alexandra Bawden with me. One of the topics that has, one of the issues that has been raised as a question, Dr. Lockhart, Dr. Bawden, is do you think that some people are feeling that we're having a little bit of negative information overkill, so to speak?
And yes, but again, we have to be realistic. The start of any type of event like this, as we said, this is a historic event. We're going to find that 98% of the media out there is going to be focused on this.
Yes.
And there's a part of all of us that wants to know this information. What is the latest? So we have to be able to cognitively put in the safety net to be able to put some distance between that. And come to an understanding that there's only so much information that we can get. So we're going to most of us watch the update coming up for the next hour or so. After that, maybe we might watch one or two other things in the evening about the news, but we need to stop.
Yes.
We need to really stop and say, if I get and see the latest update, what difference or how is that going to change?
Right.
Going back again to our wants and our needs.
Yes.
Do I really need that information, or is it just me wanting to know more and what's the latest number? How is that really going to help me and help my family and those around me when I'm irritable or I'm moody or I'm depressed?
Yes. Dr. Bawden, are you with us still?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
no, I agree with that as well. And so I'd say making sure you're getting from reliable sources as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the press briefings are the ones that I like as well. But I've had a lot of information shared, like especially on social media, WhatsApp, of information that's some that's incorrect and some that's just wrong.
Yes.
And a lot of times, scary things sell. And so, a lot of times people will hype things up to make it more scary than it actually is. I mean, it's scary times anyway. We don't need that kind of stuff. But I'd make sure that, especially if you are the type of person that tends to worry things or be a bit more anxious, limiting your social media and the amount of information you're taking in to reliable sources and maybe a couple of times a day, so you are able to disconnect, enjoy the time with your family and get back into something that you enjoy, because, we can't, so that way it's not predominating your life.
Exactly. And it takes work. That's the thing. So I know some people might be saying, yeah, it's easier to say that. We know it takes work. So, for example, the majority of the reasons why when there's a traffic accident, traffic is slow, is because people are slowing down to look when they pass. And what we're saying, you have to fight that instinct to want to get the latest piece of information, to want to know how many more people have, what's the number right now in the U.S., and we have to fight some of that.
Yes, sir. We're going directly to the press briefing now. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
welcome to our viewers on CIGTV YouTube, Facebook, and our listeners on Radio Cayman. If you're watching on YouTube, a reminder to subscribe. You can hit the notification bell and stay up to date with all our latest content. We're going to start this afternoon with a prayer from Pastor Andrew Ebanks.
Hi, I'm Pastor Andrew Ebanks of the Cayman Ministers Association. Would you join me in prayer today, please? Almighty God, we thank you for your mercy and your grace that covers over us in the midst of difficult circumstances. As the psalmist says, that when the cares of my heart are many, that your consolations cheer my soul. And Lord, I pray that over our nation today, over these Cayman Islands, that Lord, your consolations would cheer our souls in this time where our cares are many. That Lord, that we would be able to cast our cares on you today because you care for us. That you have not left us, you have not abandoned us, but that Father, as your word reminds us constantly, that you will never leave us nor forsake us. And so I ask today, Lord, that you would give us wisdom as a nation, that you would give wisdom to our government, that Father God, that you would help us to put in place the measures and follow the measures that have already been put in place for our safety and our protection and for good health and life. I ask, Lord, that you would be today with all of our emergency personnel, all of our essential services, Lord, and that you would cover and protect every single one of them, that you would cover and protect every single home and every single person. I ask for a special touch from your Spirit today as you move in our hearts and in our lives. We thank you and we praise you for your blessings on these Cayman Islands. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Amen. And I'll welcome the panel. We have His Excellency the Governor, the Honourable Premier, and the Honourable Minister for Health. So I'd like to invite the Commissioner of Police to give us an update on his latest situation regarding the curfew. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Just to deliver the overnight report there for the period from 6 a.m. yesterday morning until 6 a.m. this morning, the 30th of March. The hard curfew operated well last night, almost full compliance again. No significant policing issues arising over the past 24 hours. Little Cayman, no issues arising at all. Cayman Brac, 12 interceptions by police, 1 person found in breach of curfew, warrant for prosecution, no requirement to arrest. Grand Cayman, 83 interceptions made by police, 2 persons found in breach. This incident involved 2 persons in a vehicle while the driver was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. He will be charged with road traffic offences and breach of curfew. His female passenger was also in breach of curfew and has been warned for prosecution. Looking at this morning from 6 a.m. during the soft curfew, all is going pretty well. Indications are that the message is getting through. Traffic is flowing well. Strategic police checkpoints are in place and they are proving effective across Grand Cayman. Business at the supermarkets is brisk but is well controlled, well managed, and having spoken to a lot of the supermarket operators or retailers, plenty of stock, no need for any panic. There is a small amount of activity on the beach, and that's associated with persons out moving around for exercise, nothing like we saw on Saturday. And since 6 a.m. this morning, 3 persons have been found to be in breach of curfew. 1 person arrested during the course of a commission of a crime, another person committing road traffic offences and also in breach of curfew, and 1 other person found travelling in breach of the curfew. They will be dealt with then by way of prosecution at a later stage. Can I just re-emphasise the issue around speeding on the roads? It's becoming a problem. We are receiving an awful lot of reports of people travelling at excessive speeds. Please stay within the speed limits. Do not put other road users in danger. And we repeat, stay at home, Cayman. If you do not need to be on the road during the hard or the soft curfew, you should not be on the road. And I remind everyone again, hard curfew returns at 7 p.m. this evening. Thank you.
Questions from the media at this stage.
This is Kayla with the Compass. I wanted to get an update from the commissioner. We had heard a few days ago that certain businesses were still having trouble complying with the orders to keep their workers at home. Has that situation now improved?
Yes, I would say it has improved. As I said, our checkpoints are in place at strategic locations. Under Regulation 9, under the soft curfew, we stop and we ask appropriate questions as provided for under Regulation 9. Feedback is quite good. People understand it. We're asked why you're moving around, what is the purpose of your business. It's not free unobstructed movement, it's purposeful movement across the island. We're seeing an awful lot more compliance with that, almost full compliance.
Wonderful. And I also wanted to touch on the issue of domestic violence. Are we seeing any concerns there or any spike in domestic disputes?
Last night was the only night we saw an increase. 7 incidents of domestic violence last night. 2 of them are recorded as alcohol related. So we've dealt with them. So it is a small spike one night over the past 2 weeks. So we're going to keep a very careful eye on that.
For individuals who might be in an unsafe home situation, are there options for them right now to get out of that situation, perhaps take advantage of the hotel accommodations that are being offered for quarantine?
This has all been dealt with on a case-by-case basis. Cases are reported to NEOC. The crisis centre remains in operation. People can report, seek assistance, and it's all dealt with on a case-by-case basis. Those are things we're watching very, very carefully in terms of child and family protection.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll head now to the Honourable Premier for his update.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. There are no test results today, but Dr. Lee is here if there are questions which need to be asked of him. I turn to my usual report about the progress of this virus across the world. The number of total cases worldwide is now 768,363, up 44,973 overnight. Total deaths globally are now 36,912, up 2,847 overnight. In the U.S., total cases are now 155,969, up 12,478 overnight. Total deaths, 2,854, up 271 overnight. Italy, total cases, 101,739, up 4,050 overnight. Total deaths are now at 11,591, up 812 overnight. Spain, total cases, 85,195, up 5,085 overnight. Total deaths, 7,340, up 537 overnight. In the UK, total cases now are 22,141, up 2,619 overnight. Total deaths, 1,408, up 180 overnight. And New York State, 66,497 cases, up 5,818 overnight. Total deaths, 1,218, up 155 overnight. Overall, I think we are quite happy with the way the curfews, both soft and hard, are going. Things have certainly improved significantly. There are still, we believe, more cars on the road that need to be during the soft curfew. The supermarkets have gone very well today so far. They are not the long queues outside, which were a major problem initially. The banks, though, have reported issues with queues and have requested that they also be allowed to move to the same arrangement that we put in place for the supermarkets. And therefore, as of tomorrow, only persons with surnames beginning with L to Z should attend the banks, and those with surnames A to K on Wednesday. So it'll be Monday and Wednesday for A to K, Tuesday and Thursday for L to Z. Friday will be open to all customers.
Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I agree with the Premier. It's reassuring news on the curfews, both hard and soft, and I want to really thank the community for their support and cooperation in getting us to this point. We really can't emphasise strongly enough how important it is for everybody to stay home unless absolutely essential. I do today want to make a formal announcement about the air bridge that I referred to yesterday. So this is an air bridge between the overseas territories and the UK. Although the airport is closed, I have got the Premier's agreement and the agreement of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to bring in a British Airways flight next week. We don't know which day, but it will be the first half of next week. And I think this is a strong signal of support from the UK to its overseas territories. So the British Airways flight will arrive in Grand Cayman via Bermuda early next week. There will be a charge for tickets. Costs are still being determined, but the Foreign Office will also subsidise some of the costs of this flight. And this flight is for anyone who needs to return to the UK urgently. It's not just for British nationals or for visitors, anybody who wishes to go to the UK. Seats on the flight will, of course, be limited and will be based on a first-come, first-served basis with consideration given to any compassionate cases. If you are interested in travelling on this flight, please call the Emergency Travel Helpline on 244 3333, or you can email emergencytravel@gov.ky. That's emergencytravel@gov.ky. I know there've been a lot of calls today, and apologies if you haven't been able to get through, but do please keep trying or send an email. This flight is also extremely important because it will be bringing the UK and the Foreign Office funded consignment of protective personal equipment for us to use here in Cayman. There will be space on the inward flight for any Caymanians in London who need to return to Cayman. Of course, they will need to self-isolate on return, as previous returning residents have had to do. Anyone who wants to come back from London should contact the Cayman Islands Government Office in the UK. The phone number is +44 0207 491 7772. That's +44 0207 491 7772. Or you can email info@CIG office, cigouk.ky, info@cigouk.ky. We're also exploring a number of avenues around testing. We can't give details on this, but I've also been in touch with a number of people today about possibly using that BA flight to bring some of that equipment in as well, and we'll hopefully have more to say on that in the days that come. I just want to finish today by really, I've thanked the community, but I do want to thank our police service for the incredible job that they're doing at the moment. I want to thank CBC, who are supporting the police and the special constables, the civil service, which has really stepped up in responding to this crisis. The prison director and his staff, they don't often get a mention, but I know the prison director and staff are doing their utmost in a challenging situation to manage welfare of everybody at the prison. Also, all our healthcare professionals doing an outstanding job on the front line and who we really rely on. I want to thank them as well. And as the Premier said yesterday, our returning students and residents deserve our respect and admiration for the way that they have responsibly behaved since returning from overseas. This may be a long journey. We don't know how long we're going to be in it, but we really are grateful for the cooperation of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you. Good afternoon, listeners in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. We continue to monitor the coronavirus situations daily and its devastating impact on populations in nearly every region of the world. The global numbers of this pandemic highlighted by the Premier continues to be alarming. This country is being proactive so that we can keep our numbers as low as possible. As stated, yesterday I provided an overview of the Health Services Authority COVID-19 preparedness plan and the measures their leadership and staff are putting in place. Today, as Minister of Health, I'd like to highlight how pleased I am with the collaborative efforts taking place between the private sector and the Health Services Authority. We are developing a coordinated strategy to enhance our response to contain community spread of the coronavirus and to effectively manage any patients who are infected. We recognize that our fight against this disease is not the responsibility of one, but the whole healthcare provider community. That said, I would like to use this opportunity today to recognize a group of individuals who are leading the efforts to not only combat the virus in their capacity as researchers, but also those on the front line of this pandemic. I am pleased to see the involvement of physician leaders in the NEOC, which includes representatives from the private sector, all whom are driving discussions on key policies, issues to protect the health of the people of the Cayman Islands. Having such involvement from various providers shows they all are working for the same mission, to contain and eliminate the spread of COVID-19. I also attended a physicians meeting at the HSA, which brought together the public and private sector. I was impressed by the level of teamwork between them and the willingness to work together in the interests of the people of these islands. I also want to note that this was a few weeks ago before the heightened restrictions on gathering were in place, but I can assure you even then everyone in the room was practicing proper social distancing. When we look at our country's facilities as a whole, we have 3 hospitals. Our bed capacity across these facilities is 246, with approximately 32 ventilators. Those numbers will be expanded with further orders of equipment and PPE arriving this week. It was mentioned last week that other locations are being reviewed as possible backup sites should we have a large surge of positive COVID patients needing hospital management. We are seeing this happen around the world where healthcare facilities are at full capacity and are resorting to backup space. We hope that due to the regulations that have been put in place by our government, that Cayman will not get to that point, but we must have these plans in place. And if we get to that point, we will need all hands on deck. We have already seen private physicians teaming up with the HSA, as well as assisting in different areas of our current initiatives. For instance, private doctors checking in on all university students whom are self-isolating in the hotel to ensure they are well and not developing symptoms. Part of our strategy to contain the spread of the virus is to identify and isolate cases early. This requires the public to be clear on what symptoms to look out for and when to step forward to the HSA for testing. To further support this effort, today we are announcing the launch of an online self-assessment tool open to the public. The tool, which is now live on www.gov.ky/coronavirus, aims to provide a quick alternative to the flu hotlines and hopefully will encourage those who may be unsure if they have the coronavirus symptoms the chance to quickly check and take the necessary action. The tools begins by asking for your symptoms, and then it takes the public through a series of questions to determine whether you should seek further medical assessment, and in all this in less than 5 minutes. We understand that isolation and shelter-in-place measures can leave the public feeling limited, and we all need a welcome distraction from the news from time to time. I am therefore excited to also announce, as Minister of Culture, the launch of a jingle open call to bring out creativity in the time of coronavirus. Throughout history, we have seen music used to elicit a much-needed smile and indeed feelings of hope in the midst of a serious situation. The collection of selected jingles will help to connect the Cayman Islands government with the local community in a creative and uplifting way as we experience the challenges around COVID-19 pandemic. There are 4 categories for the jingle submission, and genre is permitted, and any genre is permitted. A payment of $1,200 will be offered for each selected jingle. The deadline for submission is Monday, 6th of April at 5 p.m. More information, including how to submit your entry, is available at www.gov.ky/coronavirus. The public are asked to contact jingle@gov.ky if they have additional questions. Finally, in closing, every year, the 30th of March, which is today, is observed as Doctors' Day, and I want to recognize the tremendous work of the medical community here in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, and the good work they do year-round to care for us and our families. Today, we pause to honor our dedicated physicians who work tirelessly for the patients who entrust them with their health care. Today, on Doctors' Day, the doctors of the Cayman Islands have joined together with the Governor, Premier, and Cabinet, and myself in making a single prescription for the people of the Cayman Islands: stay home to save lives. And this Doctors' Day observance on the 30th of March was first started in 1933. On that point about staying home alive, I thought, why is so many people on the road? And some for no reason at all. So I say this country has 134 nationalities, and I thought that I may reach out in different languages to say something with stay home in it, so that may have a greater impact. So I thought I'd add some Spanish and some Filipino, and to try to connect with the people out there. In English, essentially what I'm trying to say is please stay home unless it's essential. In Spanish is quédense en casa solamente si esencial. In Filipino is manatili sa bahay maliban kung mahalaga.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Well
Very good.
If I mess that up, I'll try it again. But you know, it's very important for us to stay home unless it's essential. I want to close by adding some words of worship. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessings will be on your food and water, and I will take away sickness from among you. Exodus 23. I thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Any questions from the media for the Premier, the Governor, and the Minister for Health?
Good afternoon, Ralph Lewis, Caymanian Times. My first question is for the Dr. Lee, and the others are for the Premier. Let's start with Dr. Lee first. We're now into week 2 since we shut our borders and flights were stopped from bringing passengers to Cayman. Do you foresee an increase in positive cases for those who may have arrived with the virus with them?
I think it's a great timing for your question and a good day for me to answer it, because absolutely, we were talking. I've been talking earlier to people about this generational aspect of the virus, and that you need to allow several generations of the virus to burn its way out through, for example, a family. If you have a group of 10 people together, if one person catches it and brings it into the household, then all of the other people in the household who may be susceptible will need to have it, and they'll have it at various times. So it will take a period of time until that generational aspect of the virus can burn itself out and everybody's had the disease.
So we should stay put another couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Please stay put.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. For the Premier, many of our workers, guests on the island, who come from the neighboring territories such as Honduras, Cuba, maybe Santo Domingo and Jamaica, were unable to catch flights out. They're now having some difficulties, some of them, with staying in the Cayman Islands. And my question is, would you be providing, or you going to be providing, complimentary airlift to neighboring territories so some of these people can go home to their families if they need to?
Well, if we have an indication that there are significant numbers of persons who wish to get to their homes within the reach of Cayman Airways, that's a lot easier than flying into the U.S., for instance, in the present circumstances. But we're prepared to look at all of these possibilities, because this is going to be a much longer term event than I think most people truly grasp. We are going to be quite a while before we can open the borders to bring visitors back here again, looking at what's transpiring in the US and the UK in particular, and all around us. But we would need to have some grasp on what the numbers are, and there would also be questions about access to those countries. For instance, we had hoped to get a flight to Honduras even 2 weeks ago, but we were not able to negotiate access there. So there are a number of very complicating factors with respect to this, but we certainly would be interested in looking at how we can help people who want to go to their homeland, or somewhere else for that matter, to leave Cayman.
Thank you. My next question is about small business. Many small business owners are following the rules, staying at home, but of course they have a concern about their viability in their future. Are you considering a stimulus package for small business?
Not right now. We are trying to get people to stay home. We want businesses closed. We want people to stay home for the next 2 to 3 weeks. We can't even think, well, I wouldn't say we can't think about it, but we certainly can't think about stimulating the economy at this point. We want people to stay home.
My final point is I want to thank you very much with the Minister for starting the press briefing with prayer. Thank you.
A question for you, Premier, about whether the government is considering action to do more to boost the supermarket delivery services, for instance, by redeploying workers.
Well, we certainly have been in discussions with the supermarkets. It's really their call. There are a whole lot of unemployed taxi drivers, tour operators, people who are used to doing deliveries, albeit deliveries of people rather than groceries. But there is really I don't think, any shortage of people available to do that. It is, I think, and I'm not really qualified to answer this, but it is, I think, taking some of the supermarkets some time to be able to get in place the systems that allow more wholesale delivery than is currently the case. And some of the complaints that I constantly get is that it is taking so long, as much as a week from time you place your order till you can get a delivery. So they're going to have to get their systems up to speed to be able to cope with this, plus dealing with the incredible stress that they're all under, just keeping shelves stocked and managing the number of people. But hopefully we will get used to this over the course of this week, and going forward things will be a lot smoother.
Thank you. Kayla.
We wanted to get an update on the number of cases number of testing cases that are still pending, and the inconclusive case when that result might finally be announced.
It's probably for our Chief Medical Officer, who's on his way.
Thank you. So it gives me an opportunity to say that, just to reiterate, I think what His Excellency the Governor mentioned the other day, we've received a supply of the ability to test, and we can now test for just over 500 cases. I'm not sure of the absolute numbers outstanding, but it's in the teens. It's not a huge number that we're waiting for. The inconclusive result, unfortunately, we need to wait for it to come back from CARFA. I do not know if they've received it. A lot of the supply chains and getting things, although the sample has left the island, are taking a long time to actually reach their destination.
Do we have any individuals who are considered recovered? And in this situation, what does recovered mean? When do we determine that someone is over coronavirus?
In the people that have tested positive for coronavirus, because it's possible that we might have some that have had it and have recovered, but they have not been that unwell. Our current regimen is that we should test them twice before they get released back into the community, 14 days after the end of an isolation period, provided their symptoms have resolved.
Okay, thank you. And I know, Premier, that you've touched on the financial stresses, that there's only so much that government can do right now. Have we seen any kind of indication from the private sector in terms of stepping up to help people in the community that are in need right now? What kind of measures can community members take to support their neighbors?
Well, I know a lot of companies are simply paying staff even though they're not working, which is a huge, huge help. And quite frankly, we are not being overwhelmed right now with requests for financial assistance. I don't think there are too many people that are in a desperate state now. But we do know that this is going to get harder as time wears on. There's only so much that even the strongest of companies can do in the longer term. But again, we are hoping that the suppression measures that we have put in place will allow Cayman to be able to get back to some semblance of domestic normalcy. I say that bearing in mind that we're going to have to keep the borders closed much quicker than most other countries would have been able to, and that we will get some domestic, the domestic economy moving again, and help to mitigate all of the challenges that we have. But no one should believe that this is going to become anything like normal anytime soon. I think we're looking at next year, quite frankly, before the world gets back to some sense of where it was before this crisis began. So, and because our two principal industries are financial services and the global economy is in the tank, and tourism, there's nobody traveling, we are going to be very, very hard hit for quite a while. So we are looking at all of those realities and seeing what government can do with the assistance of the United Kingdom to ensure that we are able to come through this in reasonably good shape.
I mean, I might just add that the UK government is very keen and willing to support all our overseas territories, and clearly Cayman historically has always financially been in a much better position than some of the other ones, but it's already engaging with some of the other overseas territories on these sorts of issues, but stands ready to support the overseas territories.
Wonderful. And we know that many Caymanians, many residents will be feeling the absence of their first paycheck this week. They'll be having difficult conversations with their landlords. What advice do you give for navigating those conversations? And do you have a message for landlords that might be tempted to evict residents at this time?
Well, if I were a landlord, the last thing I would be trying to do is to evict one of my tenants now. I'd be working very hard with him or her to find a way that they can stay there, because I expect that there are going to be a surfeit of places to rent in the next little while. As it becomes more and more apparent to businesses and to workers who are here on work permit that there will not be work here for the medium term, I believe many of them are going to attempt to leave. Ralph just asked a question. I'm starting to hear it myself. How can I get home? And then landlords are going to be left with a lot of empty apartments. So if I were a landlord, I would be working really hard with my tenants to be supportive and helpful to them, so that they are encouraged to stay, those that will stay. As I say, we have a lot to be thankful for with respect to the banks. All of them have offered significant payment holidays for significant periods, so that if a landlord is paying a mortgage, he or she should have a break there. No one's getting their water turned off. No one's getting their electricity turned off. So essentially, we can focus on essentially putting food on the table if money becomes an issue for the time being. So I would encourage everyone to hunker down. Let's ride out this particular bit of the storm. Let's see if we can get Cayman collectively in a place where we can start to open back up the domestic economy and people can start to earn incomes again, those who are not currently earning. But we are most grateful to the many banks and companies and indeed other businesses, supermarkets, even the duty-free folk who are earning absolutely zero, for continuing to pay their staff for a period of time. As I say, we know that's a finite period because you can only go on so long before you actually go bust yourself as a business. We understand all of that. But if we can hang on for a month, I think we might be in a much better place.
Great. And you hinted at this in one of your earlier answers, but in terms of keeping the border closed, at what point do we need to see the rest of the world get to in terms of containing this virus before Cayman might be able to consider letting visitors back in?
Can I ask Dr. Lee to respond to that? We had this discussion just a while ago.
I think actually the answer is probably going to come from science and the developments around either testing or vaccination, because I don't see this disease burning itself out throughout the entire world for quite some time, as the Premier has suggested. I agree with him absolutely. But if we get to a point where we can test people and know whether they are immune to it, then that's a point at which we'll be able to relax a lot of things that we currently have locked down, both here and in the wider world.
So the one thing that comforts me when we get these big questions, which I just can't work out the answer, is that every country in the world is going to be grappling with the same issue. So a lot of very brilliant minds are going to be, and I'm sure already working on this issue. And that does give me some degree of comfort and optimism that buoys me up in my darkest moments, when I wonder, when we would be able to do something like that, because we can't close the borders indefinitely. A point will come when we'll starve to death because we won't have any money to buy anything. So it'll be between the devil and the deep blue sea then. But hopefully some of those answers will come fairly quickly.
And touching on a medical question, again, we're seeing a lot of people sewing and making their own face masks. And we had seen earlier guidance about face masks, that not everyone needed to be wearing one. And I wondered if you could touch on that and the safety of DIY face masks.
That's quite a long conversation, but I think it's been going around today in particular, so it's apposite that I should attend to it. Yes, the guidance has been that major public health agencies have been advising against the use of face masks. I think this is partly from constraints in supply. But then if you look at other cultures, if you look at Hong Kong or China or Japan, they've been culturally much more receptive to wearing it, possibly in Hong Kong from their experience around the SARS epidemic, where they knew that wearing the face mask was something that you had to do to protect yourself. If the whole country, if everybody around you is going to wear a face mask when you're out and about in the community, then I cannot but see that you're going to help protect yourself. Because although wearing a face mask does not protect yourself, it actually protects the person that you might come up against by protecting any droplets from you from going that way. Any droplets that are coming your way will soak through the mask if the mask has been used, but it will stop droplets going that way. So if everybody's wearing a face mask, there is sense to that, which is why this is surfacing in the media and social media today. Along that lines, clearly we don't have the supplies for medical face masks, surgical masks to be provided, and because we're reserving those for the frontline staff. Lots and lots are on order, but at the moment we don't. There is information out there, absolutely, for making homemade masks, and it is just a question of stopping the droplets from spreading. So we're looking at that issue at the moment in the National Emergency Operations Committee and
Dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin. This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Self-isolation is an effective precautionary measure to protect those around you, your family, friends, and colleagues from contracting COVID-19. You or the person you are caring for should remain in your home except for getting medical care. Do not go to work, school, or public areas.
Yes, thank you for the question. As Cuba is one of the places that we have found interest in sourcing doctors from, nurses, and we have actually contacted the Cuban ambassador of Jamaica, and they have put us on to some of the contacts. So we're on the discussion is going on.
Can I just make a point, Kayla, because we're getting some questions about the proposed BA flight. I mean, just to say that the primary purpose is for people here who want to go to London and for us to bring in this personal protection equipment. But as it's a flight coming from London here, if there are some Caymanians in London who wish to come back, we think there are a small number, we would make that open to them. But they would be required by law to self-isolate on return. And the BA crew that come in won't be leaving the airport, so there's no risk to us here. And I just want to say as well, this whole question of testing, just to say that all of us are heavily engaged behind the scenes now in trying to get us into a much better position on testing. And indeed, in the last couple of days, we have been pursuing an avenue through South Korea, and I've asked the British Embassy in Seoul to help us do due process on a particular company that can provide actually huge amounts of testing equipment and materials. So I think this is really promising and really exciting, and there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to try and make that happen.
Wonderful. And if there are Caymanians that return on that BA flight, I imagine the quarantine option at hotels might still be available for them?
Certainly. We'll keep that open. And it's important for people to understand that self-isolation is not an option. It's absolutely mandatory. And because of all of the other things that have happened in terms of the crash of the economy, we now have significant personnel that will monitor, that we are able to deploy to monitor whether people are isolating the way that they need to. Because it would be beyond tragic if you came back and infected your family and your friends, and in the process of doing so, killed off your grandmother, your aunt, your mother, just because you selfishly didn't want to spend 2 weeks in isolation, having come from a very high-risk jurisdiction with respect to this virus. So we are taking this most seriously. Anyone who comes on that flight will be required to isolate.
I think, apologies, Kayla, we lost audio while Dr. Lee was reiterating an important point about DIY masks and considerations in the NEOC. So I think it would be wise if we invited Dr. Lee back to reiterate what he was saying in regards to the issues with masks.
Yeah, so thank you for the query about masks, which I understand is going around in the media today. To hopefully rehash everything that I previously said, and I apologize that the sound got cut out, culturally in Hong Kong and in China and in Japan, especially because of the SARS epidemic there, it became the norm for people to wear masks whenever there was the threat of an infectious disease such as this virus that we're now facing. It hasn't been the case everywhere else. Indeed, if you look at Singapore, for example, the Public Health Department in Singapore, the Ministry of Health, does not advise for people to wear masks, contrary to what people might think. But however, there is no doubt that if everybody was to wear masks, then it would protect the community more than it currently is, for the reason that although when you wear a mask you're not protecting yourself, if you're stopping the droplet spread from you to another person, then if everybody is wearing a mask, then you're generally stopping the virus traveling around, that droplet spread. There's also been a query about the aerosolization of the virus that causes COVID, which I thought I might as well address here. There was a report in the New England Journal of Medicine, a letter in fact, about a study. Aerosolization such that the virus hangs in the atmosphere is not a problem in the community. In the community, droplet spread is what occurs. You only get aerosolization when you're in a hospital environment, when you're doing particular tasks such as suctioning down an endotracheal tube, placing an endotracheal tube, or other such invasive airways tasks. So in the community, it is still droplet spread, and that issue was covered in the situation report from the WHO on the 26th of March. I just wanted to reiterate the Premier's point about isolation, because the particular circumstance, if you have been diagnosed with COVID, you fall into a different group, then you fall into an absolute requirement for you and all of your household to stay at home. If public health determines or finds out that anybody has left their home when they've been advised to do so by public health, we will immediately report the matter to the police. I've been speaking to the police today, and they are going to offer any assistance they can in order to make sure that the full force of the law is brought to anybody that breaches the requirement to stay at home if you are a sufferer or live in a household with a sufferer from COVID. Thank you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Felicia Rankin-Solins, Radio Cayman. Forbes has written an article commending the Cayman Islands and its government for taking such proactive measures towards COVID-19, placing human life above all. How does that feel being recognized by such a well-known and respected publication?
Of course, you feel good that your the actions you're taking is being recognized, and I'm very grateful to the author of it, and I actually sent her a thank you note. But we are just at the start of this epidemic in Cayman, nowhere near the end. So what I would love to be able to happen is that Forbes or somebody else were able to write an article at the end when this is all over and saying Cayman has come through this shining. and there's not been a single death of a local person, and all is well. Until that happens, we can't rest on our laurels. And while I like the encouragement, and because I'm used to getting licks, it's good now and again to get some bouquets. I am by no means complacent about the challenges that we are currently in and those that lie ahead.
And we've gotten reports that you, Premier, had a video call with some of the students that are in isolation. How did it go? Were there any complaints? Is everything fine?
It went very well. There were a couple of requests for things. That's fine. We had a very good exchange, and I impressed upon them the importance of them continuing to remain responsible and through this period of isolation. And I thank them for the degree of responsibility they have shown, and said that they were a model really for the rest of Cayman. So very, very proud of our young people. As I said to them, they're the cream of the crop. They are the next leaders of Cayman. I know it sounds cliche, but they truly are. And it is wonderful to see them displaying such a sense of community-mindedness and responsibility.
And for people who happen to see businesses operating when they shouldn't be, who exactly should they call to make these sort of reports?
I mean, it's always tempting to say call the police, but the police are so overburdened.
I mean, there is the NEOC.
Right.
The NEOC number, but
and also if they could send a message to curfew time, because curfew time is monitoring and providing the necessary authorization for businesses that should operate. So if you see a business that you think is outside the scope of the essential services as set in regulations, then just send a quick email to curfew time, and we'll be able to follow it up with the police or whichever is determined to be the responsible or appropriate agency.
And some listeners from Radio Cayman are concerned about senior citizens who live on their own. We know that there are organizations that are taking care of delivering food for them, but is there any services being held for them to do wellness checks or to ensure that they have a clean living space, that they're doing okay?
Not that I'm aware of. It's a point we'll take on board, but I know persons who are part of the usual list that the Health Services Authority or the Department of Children and Family Services or any of those other agencies are looking after. They would be normally getting those checks and so forth, but not generally. If they're just an elderly person who's living in a community and relatively independent, no, there isn't an established protocol now to go and deal with those. But if people have issues or concerns or need help, then they should feed those concerns and requests into the usual agencies that look after these sort of issues.
Okay. This next question probably would be best answered by Dr. Lee. Hi, Dr. Lee. There are some ladies that have spoken to me that are expecting to give birth soon, and understandably they are worried that their newborn could later contract COVID-19. Some of them will be giving birth at HSA, so they're wondering if there anything put into place to ensure their child's safety and their safety during that time during childbirth.
I'm not trying to duck the question. I'm just not the best person to answer that. It would probably be best addressed directly to the staff at the Health Services Authority. However, I can say, for example, the extension of the no visitors rule is being extended to the obstetric ward and also to the delivery. So although it's clearly a crucial time for bonding, they are trying to provide as much information in terms of photographs and so on to enable the father to do the bonding and to have that relationship at a later time because of this need to try to keep any risk of any threat of infection out of the Health Services Authority. So all of the process, they're looking at that process and trying their utmost to reduce any chance of the threat of that happening.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this question, but is telemedicine allowed and covered by insurance in Cayman?
Again, I'm not the best person, but I am well aware that there's been a lot of discussion between the Health Insurance Commission and the health insurers on the island, as well as the providers, in particular the private GPs. So there's a number of different codes that all doctors can use in order to have telemedicine, which have been opened up recently because of this threat, so that a lot of the practitioners are able to undertake consultations via telephone. I know that's not everything, but I think you should be able to do that, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Yes.
We've finished with questions for the media. We had one on a slightly lighter note for Minister Seymour regarding the jingle open call. How many payments could potentially be awarded to persons?
Thank you for that question. What I'd like to do is give you some information on the jingles call out is what it's not really a competition, it's an open call, which there's a difference. There are 4 categories for the jingle submission, and any genre is permitted. The public health, education, awareness, jingles with coronavirus specific messaging aligned with public health advice, community solidarity and togetherness, jingles with messaging to highlight our collective strength and resolve, hope and healing, jingles with messaging to evoke feelings of nostalgia and gratitude for the silver linings coming from this crisis, support local, jingles with messaging to encourage and inspire the support of our local economy. Up to 3 jingles per category will be selected, which means that potentially 12 payments of $1,200 each will be awarded. Collaboration is possible and encouraged. Jingles will be selected and musicians notified by Thursday, 9th of April.
Thank you, Minister. Any closing words, further words from the panel?
In response to the question from Felicia, I've just had a note from Danny Coleman, who heads up hazard management, saying that anyone who has issues, elderly people who need assistance and so forth, they can contact NEOC under Human Services. They've got a section called Human Services that will coordinate the necessary assistance to them.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say it's important that we recognize everyone, and it looks like we hadn't been recognizing the work department, and they've been messaging me, and I told them we would get this out today. Thank them for what they're doing. I see them on the beat with the police, and we apologize for missing you out, but I think there was some confusion in terms of there used to be lobby with the CBC, and the governor has been saying that a lot. And I also wanted to note that atheists in Italy are now praying. So there is a lot of reasons why I pray here.
Thank you. And a reminder, those numbers mentioned by the Premier, by the Governor, the Emergency Travel Helpline, the NEOC number, those can all be found on gov.ky/coronavirus. There's a contacts page there with all that information. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Thank you to our sign language interpreter, Ms. Carolyn Powell. We'll be back tomorrow with another press briefing. In the meantime, please visit that webpage. That was gov.ky/coronavirus. Follow along with all the Cayman Islands government social media channels. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Remember to adjust your settings so you receive a notification when we go live with these press briefings. You can find new content available throughout the day. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
From Radio Cayman, you've been listening live to the government press briefing with a COVID-19 update.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's read the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.